Willys Overland took their revolutionary principle and extended it to a four-wheel drive station wagon. In place of the 80-inch wheelbase of the Jeep, they engineered a new and equally sturdy chassis with a 104-inch wheelbase and standard tread. On this, they built the first all-steel four-wheel drive station wagon. The only station wagon with four-wheel drive. Able to get through either on or off the highway without chains in all kinds of weather.
Alright guys, we have finally finished our 1950 Willys Wagon. If you guys have been sticking around for your entire build series, I'll show you guys a full walk around of the thing now that we have it done. I'm so excited that this thing has finally come out the way we hoped it would. It's a very weird swap, so there's a lot of quirks and things that we had to get tied down, but I think we got it proven that this thing is actually a nice functional vehicle. Since we went on Power Tour, we had a minor issue, but we got it back and ready to go. So I'll show you guys all the things that we did to our 1950 Willys Wagon here. All right guys, so if you guys haven't seen the entire build series, I'll link it up here. But basically what we did was we took a 1950 Willys Wagon and we actually put the entire body of the Willys Wagon onto a modern Jeep Wrangler chassis. Now the Jeep Wrangler chassis we used was actually a Jeep TJ, and the reason we went with that is because we wanted to have a more comfortable ride than the original Willys. The original Willys had leaf springs on the front, so these have coil springs, so we wanted to be able to maintain the ride quality of a modern vehicle since we're building the entire thing anyway. Now the Jeep TJ also has a lot more aftermarket capabilities. We can do lift kits, we can do different suspension mods. Whenever we get the thing running and driving well, we can go off-roading and be able to maintain this thing on an auto parts store if we have a breakdown or if we need to get parts for it. So all this stuff is basically off of a newer Jeep Wrangler, and that makes it really nice. All right, so the next thing that we had to do to be able to get the frame under this vehicle was we actually had to cut the frame and lengthen it over a foot to be able to maintain the wheelbase here. So that way it doesn't look weird. We're not cheating the wheel wells and trying to push the front tire forward or the back tire forward. We have everything symmetrical in the wheel wells just like we like it. And it makes the Jeep look stock, so it doesn't look like it's been chassis swapped unless you really know these Willys. So other than that, we had to notch the rear suspension and stuff, but the Jeep body sits perfectly right on top of this frame and it works really well. That was probably the easiest part. Between cutting it, lengthening it, welding it all back together, and then putting the body on it was probably around 2 weeks of work, and it was very well worth it between maintaining the old Jeep frame and this new modern suspension. So definitely way better of a ride quality. So now if you guys know our channel, we can't leave everything stock. Now we could have just put a modern Jeep Wrangler chassis underneath of it and kept the Jeep Wrangler drivetrain with the automatic transmission and the 4-liter that comes in these Jeep Wranglers. But we wanted to do something a little bit different, and we wanted to do a common swap that is done on a lot of these Jeep Wranglers. So we wanted to swap in a Volkswagen turbo diesel. So the reason we wanted to do this was Jeeps don't really get the best gas mileage, and they're very cool, but we wanted to do something a little bit different. So we swapped in a 1.9 liter AHU turbo diesel, and this thing is actually fully mechanical injected. So it has a mechanical injection pump like a 4BT Cummins or something like that. And it is fully mechanical, so the transmission and everything doesn't need any computers for it to run. It just needs one wire for the fuel solenoid, and that's it. So everything on this thing is fully mechanical, and it gets pretty good mileage. We get about mid-20s when we were on power tour, but we're looking to probably get that fuel mileage a little bit better once we get it more fine-tuned. So this thing gets mid-20s on the highway, drives great like a modern vehicle. So the other modern conveniences that we wanted to do was we wanted to put air conditioning in this, and we want to put power steering. Since, you know, it's going to be an off-road vehicle, obviously you want to be as comfortable as you can be. So we actually fitted it with a Mini Cooper power steering pump, and it works phenomenally. The power steering has had no problems. It works great. Definitely a awesome swap if you guys are looking to do an electric power steering on one of these cars. And the reasoning for that is because we couldn't really fit a power steering pump onto the TDI within the Jeep Wrangler chassis. So we went with that route, and it worked really well. The other thing that we did that's a little bit of an oddball is we're actually running electric air conditioning on this. Now, we did upgrade the alternator for a higher output alternator, and we're powering the electric air conditioning that we got on eBay, and it's actually a really nice kit, and I'll link that video of how we did that up here. The whole system on the air conditioning is all electric, and it works really well. We're cruising down here, it's pumping around, you know, 50 to 60 degrees inside the cab when it's 100 degrees out today, so it's pretty nice inside. So the reason we have the way the batteries are hooked up is because we wanted to power the air conditioning and the power steering, but we didn't want to draw from the battery that starts the vehicle and runs everything else. So if we lose one battery, we'll still be able to drive it. We just won't have power steering and air conditioning. So the way that we have this set up is we have both batteries completely separate of each other. But if you flip a switch, say it's cold out and the car's getting a hard start, you can flip the switch and both batteries will be charged together, so that way it'll power both of them. So it works really well that way. And with the new alternator, we haven't had any battery draws or anything like that. Everything seems to run happy. So whenever we get to the winter time, we'll see how we'll use this whenever it's cold starting. But for right now, it works really well. All right, so the Jeep is a little tall. We actually put 4-inch lift springs on it, and getting into it, just hopping in it is a little bit of a challenge for shorter people. So we ended up putting a step right there so you can step in there and then hop right into the Jeep. So what we wanted to do on the inside, now the inside was one of our biggest challenges, and most of the work was on the inside. We actually wanted to redo the entire dash because the way that the dash set up originally wasn't really that most appealing. It was actually set up for left and right hand drive. So there was nothing, it basically had 2 glove boxes, and we wanted to put our own touch on it and add a little bit more modern conveniences. So we actually made our entire gauge panel CNC it ourselves, and we inserted a bunch of more modern gauges with speedometer, tach, boost, stuff like that the Jeep wouldn't normally have from 1950, and we wanted to outfit it with all that kind of modern features. So the other thing that we did was we actually went to the junkyard and got Volvo station wagon seats, and we wanted to find something a little bit more modern so that way the seats would be comfortable, and but we wanted them fully mechanical. So the seats are actually fully mechanical second row seats from a Volvo SUV, and then they fold forward so you can access the back seats. Now the back seats are actually third row seats, and I'll show you guys a little bit more cool stuff about the back seats in a second. Now the center console that we use is actually out of a Chevy Equinox because we wanted to try to find something tall so you get your arm up on it, but we wanted to have cup holders and other stuff like that with phone chargers and a bunch of storage. So the center console actually lifts up, and then you can pull out cup holders and everything like that, put your drinks in it, and then put it away, tuck it away if you don't need it. It also integrated our emergency brake cable, so all that worked really nicely together. And the Jeep is kind of small on the inside, so we didn't want you to feel crammed, so finding a small center console is kind of a challenge, but it actually worked out really well. So the other thing that we wanted to do on the inside was put a modern radio in it. So we actually have this flip down screen so it doesn't look too appealing when the screen's up, but if you could tuck it away, and you wouldn't really know that it has a modern radio in it and it doesn't look as cheesy. So you can flip that up, has backup camera, Apple CarPlay and everything like that, but then you tuck it away and you don't really know that it's there. All right, so the other thing that we actually wanted to do was outfit this thing with modern driving lights. So we actually have a bunch of switches up here where we can turn on different lights, and there's actually rock lights and lights in the grill and everything like that. So that way the Jeep is fully lit if you're off-roading at night. That way we have all the modern lights, but we wanted to hide them in places where you wouldn't normally see them. So on the front of the Jeep, we actually have these rock lights hidden in the grill, and then these are the original turn signal lights, and we're using these as floodlights. So these will shine really bright, and you could do either an amber or a clear LED light, and then these two front ones will shine through the grill and illuminate the front. Now underneath, we also have other rock lights hidden around the entire Jeep, so that way underneath the car is fully lit and we can see everything when we're off-roading at night. Now, we did want to be able to hide this stuff as much as possible, so we tried to tuck everything in stock location places because we don't want to look obviously modified, but that's just a little slight touch that we wanted. All right, so this thing on the back is still a little bit rusty. Now, we are Rustomod, not Rustomod, so we try to get cars that you guys can normally afford and do stuff that doesn't normally cost a ton of money. So there is some dents and dings and rust, of course, all over the back of the vehicle, but that's why we use it. We actually drive these things, we don't park them in a showroom. So the other thing that we wanted to do was we wanted to integrate these tie down racks in the back. Now, if we were hauling stuff, putting kayaks or whatever we're gonna do, putting back here all of our recovery gear and stuff, we wanna be able to tie stuff down. So we actually use these aircraft style tie down racks, and we can clip different things that we want to on the back, tie it down, and that way we can use the entire tailgate of the Jeep to be able to tie stuff down and so stuff won't roll around on the trail. Now, we actually repurpose that and reuse those same brackets for the seats. So the seats can be able to move along these racks forward and back, and they can be able to be removed if you're hauling a bunch of lumber or stuff in the back. You can pull the back seats out, store them away, and then clip whatever you're gonna clip down in the back. So that's a really, really cool touch that we wanted to do. So that way we can be as versatile for the Jeep as possible. So that's a quick walk around of our TDI swapped, Wrangler chassis swap, 1950 Willys Wagon. Now, don't worry, we're still gonna have a bunch of build series on this because as you can see, it's not really finished. We still have to do headliners, we have to wire some stuff. We were just trying to get it ready to go for Hot Rod Power Tour, and we unfortunately ended up blowing a head gasket. Now, we hadn't gone through the engine whenever we had bought it. We just stuck it in there, rebuilt the injection pump, and it ran fine. We actually drove all the way down there and it worked out. But whenever we were midway through the Hot Rod Power Tour, it ended up blowing a head gasket and we had to tow it back. Since then, we actually put a head gasket in there and it's running okay now, but we wanted to upgrade the power a little bit because it's not necessarily the fastest car in the world. It gets down highway speeds, but we wanted to upgrade it a little bit since we're gonna have to pull that motor apart anyway. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to upgrade the engine, and we actually bought a newer Volkswagen TDI that's gonna make almost double the power that this one currently makes. So I'll show you guys all that stuff when we continue this build series. But for right now, the Willys is running and driving great. We can drive it pretty much anywhere, and it's a really, really nice cruiser. So we're gonna keep it how it is for now, but don't worry, you are gonna see this thing on the channel in the future, and we'll show you guys all the build series whenever we fit the new motor into this body. So make sure you stay tuned for that, and make sure you stay tuned for all the other build series that we're gonna have on the channel. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Thanks for watching.